Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Wanted to talk today about headlines that came out over the weekend about how 95% of NFTs are finally worthless and NFTs have fully died. Wanted to dive into the data on that, something I've been thinking about, went ahead and did it this morning. Also going to talk about some cool technology from Transient Labs, Dmitri Cherniak's physical print that's going out there. Let's dive right into it, starting off with a quick market overview. Volumes basically flat, still kind of at the low end of the range for where we've been over the past few months. Large cap index continued to kind of grind a little bit lower. Nothing too serious, but a little bit of downward movement there. Some strength in Coda and weakness in Milady, as well as the Pudgy set. Gave back a little bit of the gains, kind of pumped up to 5.2 after the big Walmart news, now down to about 4.8, 4.9. Mid-cap index continues to trend lower as well. In terms of Friend Tech, my key index, the top 250 keys, hit an all-time high. So, this just continues to grind higher and higher. To be in the top 250 right now, you need to have a key price above 0.43, which is the highest for that 250th mark. In terms of buy versus sell volume, continue to have more buy volume than sell volume. As you remember, with Friend Tech, each trade is against a bonding curve. So you're either buying or selling. It's not like NFTs where for every buyer, there's also a seller. So that buy volume just means more and more ETH getting pumped into this ecosystem. Also wanted to look at total Friend Tech volume relative to NFT volume. And you can see that trend, there was a little stretch there where Friend Tech keys were doing more volume than ETH NFTs, although that has recently reversed, and ETH NFTs over the past few days have done more volume than Friend Tech keys. In terms of art projects, a sweep of 6 Memories of Qilin by Emily Shi, by Bob Lucas. We'll have a look at that. Let's have a look at some of the other sales, though. This one in the top left here is a Where My Vans Go by Drifter Shoots, and it's actually a video, so it's not quite as great of an image as a still, but this is a very cool video, sold for 15.8 WETH, kind of the range where My Vans Goes have been trading recently. There was only one Chromie Squiggle sale yesterday, and that was this beautiful ribbed squiggle. This was bought by Curated for 11.7 ETH. This piece, Primera by Grant Yoon and Mitchell, sold for 1.65 WETH. Remember, Grant Yoon, as we know, is an illustrator, but does have one generative art project, and that was that. And then Contractions. This is a very cool Contractions piece by Lloyd Hollowell, sold for 1.4 ETH. Having a look at those Memories of Qilin, here is the sweep. All 6 of these were bought by Bob Lucas, kind of in that 3.3 to 3.8 ETH range. Paid a little bit more for that Hongbao palette in the lower left. Second thing to talk about, are 95% of all NFTs worth zero? Why am I asking such a silly question? It's because this headline was in the Rolling Stones magazine. Your NFTs are actually finally totally worthless. He said once hype-based assets have hit rock bottom valuation. Now, this was not Rolling Stones research. They leveraged research that was done by another group where they said dead NFTs, the evolving landscape of the NFT market. And here they said of the 73,000 collections, an eye-watering 95% of them have a market cap of 0 Ether. Now, what I wanted to dig into this, and I think the issue that I take there, the wording that I take the most issue with is evolving and finally. And the reason I say that is because most NFTs have always been worthless. This stat would have been true even in peak bull market. What do I mean by that? If you look at all the projects, and this is the projects on ETH that have done transactions on Flipside, so it is a lower base, something like 45 to 50,000 different contracts. 90% of them have always been worthless. What do I mean by worthless? I mean that they've done less than 10 ETH of volume, or in some cases done less than 100 ETH. I mean, 77% have done less than 10 ETH of volume ever. So the vast majority of projects that once they get started just don't become anything. And we all know that. It's not that hard to mint a contract. And who even knows what a lot of their purpose is. So when the wording is that this is a new thing, that suddenly 95% of them are worthless, it's actually not all that true. Most of the projects never get off the ground in the first place. Now, I will say this, and I think it is very important to say that projects are down very, very bad. This is a log scale chart of top PFP projects, and relative to the peak, this index is down 83%. So people have lost a lot of money, but the article wasn't saying people have lost a lot of money. The article is saying suddenly everything is worth zero. what I think is a more appropriate thing to do. Like, who cares if a random project that no one's ever heard of, is worth zero and was worth zero in 2021 and never got its feet off the ground? The interesting thing to do is to look at where the volume was, where the energy was in NFTs, the ones that you own, the ones that I own, the one that the majority of people own. How many of those have actually gone worthless? And if you look at 2022, if you look at the bull market of 2022, the vast majority of the projects that got the most attention, did the most volume, are the most widely held, the most widely distributed, continue to have value. All these ones in blue, the floor price is still over $1,000 US. The ones in red, like Loot, Beans, Goblins, PXN, Hate Prime, Art Gobblers, some of them have gone down a lot. And, clearly things got way too expensive relative to where we are right now. But the majority of these are still worth over $1,000 each. Again, down bad from where we were, but nothing like the zero, finally worthless rock bottom valuation that they say. Let's go back a year further. Let's go back to 2021. Because 2021, that was like the peak bull market, punks going from 10 ETH to 150 ETH at their peak bull market. If you look at these, the ones that did the most volume in 2021, the ones that got the most attention, were in the news the most, the ones that people thought were the most ridiculous, those still have a lot of value. If you look at punks, if you look at art blocks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Meebits, most of these projects, again, is still worth $1,000 or more each. So certainly not zero. If you even go one step further and look at the projects that have been curated. So let's look at art blocks curated. Every art blocks curated I pulled is still worth more than 0.14 ETH at the floor, 0.14 ETH, one of the lower values at the floor. Here is a list of a bunch of curated art blocks. And in that market, where almost everything still costs more than $150, $200 each. Now, this chart's a little bit disorienting because the Fidenza, the Ringer, the Gazers, Chromie Squiggles pull the chart so far to the right. So let's make it so the peak is just 0.8 for the value there. You can see that, still so much of it is above 0.14 ETH or more. Another chart I wanted to look at. Let's look at all the projects that did more than 1,000 ETH of volume in 2021. Of those, a lot of them are worthless. Right? Of those, something like 75, so 42% haven't done any volume in the past 2 months. So 58 have done a little bit of volume in the past 2 months. And this is, again, projects from a year and a half ago. 29% have done 1 to 10 ETH. So between those two, it's about 75% that basically are doing less than 10 ETH of volume in the past 2 months, that did more than 1,000 ETH of volume in 21. But again, it's just very different from the way that it was framed. So my overall message here is I think that this kind of cherry picked a stat that's always been true, which is that most projects never take off. If you look at the stuff from 2021, 22, that was really, really big. Yeah, it's down in price, but there's still, some real value in digital collectibles. I thought this was a cool piece that sold yesterday on Super Rare, kind of imprinting an image over that headline, sold for 1.142 ETH. And again, let's just look at the top 6 projects right now. CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Fidenza, Pudgy Penguins, Ringers. I don't even know if these are actually, they're probably not the top 6, but 6 of the top projects, just these 6 alone, have $1.5 billion of value. So markets are down, but it's not worth zero. 1.5 billion just between these 6 projects. People still value digital collectibles at some level. Let's talk about something else, though. Transient Labs doing some really interesting and cool technology with ACK kind of as the first piece that they're going to do it. Here's the image that Transient Labs tweeted a little bit about what they're doing. They're basically putting chips into physical art, okay? And that physical secure chip is attached to the art, and that provides signing capabilities for on-chain verification. It is going to be creator-owned. The contract will be creator-owned and stored on the ETH blockchain on either L1 or L2. What does it basically do? It means that you can put your phone up to a piece of art, and through that, you can see kind of what has happened on-chain for that piece of art. It certifies the authenticity. For an ACK piece, if it goes to a contract owned by ACK, that that's the official one. The creator also can add storylines to the piece onto the chain. So you can learn more about the piece that the creator can do behind the scenes. You can see where the piece has been displayed. Has it been auctioned at Sotheby's? Has it been in certain galleries? You can see the sales history all via this piece. So very, very cool stuff. The first person that Transient Labs is working with on this is Alpha Centauri Kid. Here you can see, the Muse is a piece that Alpha Centauri Kid sold in the past. This one sold for 107,000 ETH, but he's doing another one in more green shade, which you can see here, auctioning on Christie's, I believe tomorrow, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And the estimated price is $30,000 to $50,000. And that is a physical piece. It is a physical piece, which will also have this chip, which certifies on-chain the authenticity of it. So very cool stuff from ACK, very cool stuff from Transient Labs, very cool stuff from Christie's. Excited to see how that plays out tomorrow. Fourth thing to talk about, Dmitri Cherniak prints on sale. I just wanted to highlight this because it's happening right now as we speak, selling these prints for $1,200 when it's framed, $1,184 framed. I think it's below $1,000 if it is unframed. It is a ringer. He's doing it with Avant Art, which really works to put a lot of digital art into physical prints that you can put in your house. Dimensions 20 by 20 inches, more or less 19.7 by 19.7. It can be ordered float mounted in a bespoke wooden frame, painted matte white with visible grain and fitted with UV plexiglass for protection. 3-color silk screen printed in 7 layers, individually signed, dated, and numbered, and each print is paired with an NFT. I think this is cool how it's signed, dated, numbered, but it is an open edition. So we see how many of them go out today. After 24 hours, they will know what that number looks like. Here's a little bit more. It really looks very, very high quality. Here's Dmitri signing it. And then there will also be a raffle where 5 XL prints, bigger 4x4 in their squares, will be sold or will be raffled off for everyone who buys these. So I thought this was kind of cool. I personally really like physical prints. You can see my metal prints in the background, so figured I would flag that. And then lastly, let's talk about a couple notable sales. A Diamond Grill Bored Ape Yacht Club sold for 36.8 ETH. Again, pretty serious price for a bear market. If you look at the Diamond Grills recently, they've been selling at 34, 35, 49. So this is kind of right in the range for where Diamond Grills have been selling. In terms of one-of-one art, this piece, Ultreia by Mattia Pannoni, sold for 3.0 ETH. The buyer's name was Italian Art Collector. I looked up, what does Ultreia mean? And it is a traditional greeting or encouragement among pilgrims of the Camino de Santiago, a historic pilgrimage route that leads to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. When pilgrims meet each other along the way, they might say Ultreia to encourage the other to continue on their journey. And the common response is Etsusia, which means and rise up. So I thought that was kind of cool, and it did kind of fit in with this piece. And in the description, the artist talks about that as well. And then these two pieces, Poison and Dishonored by Chewy Stoll. So both were sold for 2.5 ETH. Here is Chewy Stoll saying honored that these were sold and thanking the collector Molite for buying them. A little bit more about Chewy Stoll, a 3D artist focused on distorted human form and surreal landscapes. The work serves as a healing mechanism and visual diary for past trauma. So artists making themselves vulnerable to past trauma and trying to put that into the art. Here are 4 other sales. This artist has had sales kind of in that 5, but all the way up to 16 ETH range. So some very big sales, but 2 sales at 2.5 ETH yesterday. Nothing to scoff at in this market. Congrats to the seller as well as the buyer. That is all from me today. We are not going to be doing a show tomorrow. I have to travel tomorrow, so we are not going to be doing a show. But we'll be back next week and most weekdays with another show. Hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.